Hey guys, it's Tiny Kyle once again, back and better than ever. My boy Alex here. You guys have all been asking, we're here to deliver. Today we're going to talk about maintenance items on your Subaru STI. So this is the car that brought Subaru into direct competition with stuff like the Mitsubishi Evo, some of the various all-wheel drive Audi platforms, and just basically into competition with any other all-wheel drive, four-cylinder, turbocharged car on the market that was geared towards enthusiasts. Since we've seen this car in the States, since about 2004, it's been a pinnacle, an icon, if you will, within the car community. And they're here, and they're here to stay. Well, they're not. They're gonna go away, but they're here for now.
In our hearts, they're here to stay.
Forever. So if you're watching this video, you're probably interested or already own one of these cars. And today we're just gonna go over a little bit what it takes to maintain these cars and what things you should think about doing right away after purchasing them. Or if you've already purchased one, things that you may not have thought about that you should do now.
Now this motor has been offered in the US since Subaru started marketing these cars in the United States in 2004. These engines produce anywhere from 300 to 340 horsepower straight out of the factory. And no, you don't get that from just putting a wing on your WRX. There are some differences. The first topic in this video, as well as the first topic in all the other videos we've done, is checking your fluids. Obviously this is obvious, it seems simple, but it's definitely very important. If you're just purchasing one of these cars, some of the less common fluids like brake fluid, power steering fluid, just check to make sure they're not absolutely black and gross and filthy. Checking over coolant and doing regular oil change intervals, just gonna make sure that your EJ257 is gonna live a long and happy life.
So while we're on the topic of fluids, one of the most important things about fluids is that they stay in the cavity that they were designed to be in. When they leave that area, they get very sad. So with this, we've noticed that many customers and many people in general have noticed that the valve cover gaskets on these are a common wear item that needs to be addressed. So that's a quick and easy, simple check to kind of determine the health and condition of the other maintenance items. If someone's already replaced them and it looks like it's in good condition, then you're pretty good bet that this guy's keeping up on the maintenance on the car.
My dad always told me if there's no oil under it, there's no oil in it.
That's right. Well, I don't know. Okay. Well, are you sure? A good check-in of state of health of the engine and knowing how well it's been maintained over the years is definitely take a peek at those valve cover gaskets. If they're leaking, replace them. If they're not, then you're good to go.
And they also can be kind of stinky, when they leak.
Stinky?
Stinky.
What is that?
Because like
oil is
burning.
Because the headers are underneath. Yeah.
You don't want your girlfriend to get in the car and then she's like, why does it smell like someone just mowed the lawn?
I kind of like that. So if you're in the market for a Subaru or already own one that needs valve cover gaskets and you want a little pro tip to make your life just a little bit easier, if you're having trouble pulling the valve covers off of the spark plug tubes and they're hitting the firewall, a really simple, easy trick you can do is loosen the two engine mounts underneath the car, jack it up, put a socket on one side of the engine, the side that you're trying to remove the valve cover gaskets off. Essentially, you're gonna use a socket as a spacer between the engine mount and the subframe, and that'll give you just a little bit more room to pull them out and clear the frame rails on the car. It's just a cheap, easy little trick that you can do when you're trying to get them off.
All right, speaking of mileage and age-related issues, the factory turbochargers on these STIs are known to have a pretty common failure rate. Typically, you won't start seeing these failures until around the 100, 125,000 mile range, but there are plenty of variables that go into this. Is your car modified? Are you running higher boost pressure through the factory turbo? Are you driving it like a pro rally car driver through the snow? Are you beating the shit out of it? That all plays into effect on how long it will last. And even back to my first point is, do you have dirty oil running through that turbo for 10,000 miles at a time? That's all going to shorten the lifespan of your factory turbocharger. So assuming that you aren't pushing your turbo to the absolute ragged edge, you might not see a turbo failure overnight, but there are some signs to look out for a turbo that might be on its way out. Some of those would include, but are not limited to, smoking from the turbocharger coming out of the exhaust, a loud whining noise, maybe sounds like a dentist drill, or a noticeable lack in power. Or if you get a nice surprise of oil in your intercooler, charge piping, or intake, that might be a sign to look further into that issue and start with the turbocharger. There are plenty of actually really easy bolt-on options, if your turbocharger does fail. Stock location, stock style, upgraded turbos. So it makes it really easy to install without having to replace too many different components, but it gives you some headroom for making more horsepower, and also will cut down on the smoke out of the tailpipe or the oil in your intercooler.
You want to vape out of your mouth, not out of your exhaust. So we've gone over the little stuff. Now we're moving on to the big kahuna burger. We of course are referring to the semi-common issue when you start to push these cars of ringland failure. What does this mean? If you just kind of heard this buzzword around, essentially the groove that's cut out for the piston rings to sit in has a tendency to crack and break off. There's a number of issues involved with this, and the main takeaway is your piston shouldn't be falling apart. Signs to look out for possible ringland failure would again be smoke out of the exhaust, loss of power, poor engine idle quality would be a pretty big takeaway, because obviously one cylinder is producing less power per stroke than all the rest. So you'd more than likely see a rough idle, some smoke, and
loss of compression.
Yeah, loss of compression once you start to dig into it. The newer Subarus received an update from Subaru. They had a piston design change that was supposed to help negate this issue, and it seems from what they've done, it helped drastically in the failure of these pistons. If you do suffer a tragic piston loss, like our boy Alex said here, you can give us a call. We have various engine programs, and if you want to do it yourself, you could buy a set of pistons directly from us. So there's plenty of options if you are experiencing an engine failure like this. You're not dead in the water, there is a solution for you.
There is hope.
There's hope. So with going over ringland failure, that's not the only internal engine component failure that you could expect when you start to up the power level on these cars. The factory rods in these cars have been known to fail when you start to push them a little bit further than they were designed. So just know that these engines aren't fragile, but they do have their own set of limitations, and it's important that you know what exactly these are. And if you're going to exceed these factory power numbers, that there are a number of things that you're going to run into along the way. But just know we got your back, and we'll help you out in sourcing those parts, get a new block, get a new set of rods, new set of pistons, new head, new cams, new valve springs, maybe some valve cover gaskets.
Timing belt, water pump.
We got it all, and we'll help you out no matter what the failure is on your engine. These cars are extremely fun to drive and modify when they're set up properly, so being sure that you have the right parts in your car that's going to keep it reliable, safe, and fun and healthy is super important.
So if you like this video, but maybe you want to learn more, we did make a video previously about the other EJ family of engines from the WRX. There are some things that cross over, so it's helpful to know for both platforms. But if you like the video in general, give us a like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you want to see next. Like I said, we're going to keep doing these. Peace out, everyone.